Hi there, and welcome to Vegan Island Radio, the show that is dedicated to artists, activists and everyday people who are doing their bit to encourage others and bring about a vegan planet in their own special way. Today on the proverbial Vegan Island, I have with me Ronnie Lee. Ronnie has spent a long time within the animal rights movement. Having started his journey with the Hunt Saboteurs, he then co-founded the Band of Mercy in 1972, which then morphed into the Animal Liberation Front in 1976. Ronnie now spends his time advocating for education about the rights of animals, primarily through various forms of vegan outreach. Ronnie also once had his closest encounter with death at a jumble sale.
You say that you love them, so why do you eat them? Why do you wear them? Why do you deceive them? I don't think you love them. So let's start imagining the madness is ending, love is descending when we're defending those innocent beings. Believe me when I say I see it every day. It makes my world turn gray. I simply can't ignore. It's what I'm fighting for forevermore. Let the animals live. Let them live. Let them live. Let the animals live. Just let them live. Let the animals live. Let them live. Let them live. Let the animals live. Just let them live. You say that you love them, so why do you eat them? Why do you wear them? Why do you deceive them? I don't think you love them. I'll never get violent, still never be silent. Know that you're hiding what you're depriving those innocent beings. Believe me when I say I see it every day. It makes my world turn gray. I simply can't ignore. It's what I'm fighting for forevermore. Let the animals live. Let
touch.
How you doing, Ronnie? Welcome to the island.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's great. It's great to be here, and with me is Misty, one of our rescued cats, who wants to be a film star. So she's hoping she'll be discovered on one of these videos. And
Well, let's hope so. We'll have to get her own show. She can be the next host.
yeah, she's a lot better looking than me, and probably talks more sense. So yes, my nearest encounter with death, was at a jumble sale. Funnily enough, and quite an ignominious way to die, really. What it was in the late 1970s. I was living in North London. It was in the kind of Palmer's Green area, and I was going out with the woman who lived over in Northwest London in Harrow Weald. She lived with her parents. And it was one Saturday I went over to see her, and I'd go over on the train. There's a train that used to go like across North London, and I think it was Harrow Millstone Station I was going to meet her at. But she and her mum were going to a jumble sale that was right near the station, and they said, "Look, we're going to this jumble sale. Why don't we meet you and we'll all go to the jumble sale?" So I said, "That's great. Yeah, we'll do that." So anyway, I got there a bit early, and they obviously, Kim, who was my girlfriend at the time, and her mum, they weren't there. So I kind of got in the queue for the jumble sale, and I was near the front. And the doors opened, and Kim and her mum still hadn't turned up. So I thought, I'll go in the jumble sale and they can come in and find me. So I went in there, and there was a big queue behind me, waiting to go in. And I went in. I wasn't very interested in all the clothes, but down the end of the hall, there was a table that had a load of clothes on top, but underneath the table there were books. And I thought, great, books. I'll go in there and have a look at the books. So I went down the end of the hall to this table, and I bent over to rummage through the books that were under the table, and suddenly this massive crowd of they were kind of big women with bags, the jumble, women.
Yeah. Bargain hunters.
Absolutely fanatical, this big crowd. And they were fanatically wanting to go through these clothes on the table. So I was crushed. I was bent over. I was bent double against this table with this massive, big crowd of, kind of women that are all bigger than me, of course, like crushing against me. And I felt the breath going out of my body. I felt the breath going out of my body. And I was struggling to... They didn't even notice I was there. They were so fanatical to go through these clothes and all shouting and kind of more or less fighting one another, like they do.
Absolutely, there's a bargain to be had, isn't there?
And I was crushed against this table. I thought, I'm going to die. I started losing consciousness, and I thought, what am I going to do? So I desperately just, frantically kind of elbowed, and I managed to make a space so I could drop to the floor. And I actually crawled between these women's legs. I crawled on the floor, like seemingly for ages, because there was this big crowd of them. And I crawled out the other side of them and managed to get to my feet. And I staggered out the hall. And when Kim and her mum turned up, I was sat there on a wall outside of the hall, church hall, wherever the jumble sale was, like with the head in my hands, like desperately trying to recover from this horrific near-death experience. And it amuses me, actually. I mean, it was horrific at the time, but it amuses me to think, say that I hadn't been able to get out of there, that what would have happened is I'd have ended up being found naked. I'd found naked, all the clothes took off me, right? And then, they'd be going, "Oh, look at that. That's a very realistic dummy, isn't it? Dummy, But they could have washed these underpants first." Yeah, so it could have ended really in the kind of most embarrassing way. Although, of course, I wouldn't have been around to be embarrassed, would I? But that is the nearest I've actually come to death. I've had other, near scrapes. in my life, but I'd say that was the nearest. I had a guy point his gun at me on a grouse shoot back in, that would have been back probably around about the same time. I think probably most of my near-death experience probably do date back to that time. It was I went on to sabotage a grouse shoot with Hunt Sabs, and we were on the moors in Derbyshire. And
Yep.
I stood in front of this guy. This guy pointed his gun at me. I stood in front of him and I said, I'm here to stop you, killing animals. And he said, I bloody well kill you. And he pointed his gun at me, raised his gun, and then his mates are going, don't be a fool. Don't be a fool. Put your gun. Don't be a fool. Because I said to him, all right, I said, shoot me. I said, you'll get life if you shoot me.
Absolutely, yeah.
I should have really thought, well, hang on, he'll get life, but I'll get death, which is somewhat worse.
Which is slightly worse. Yeah, yeah. You can get out after life.
I'm not sure it's something I'd do now, but I think in those days, obviously, a young guy, I was more fired up and everything.
We were all immortal then as well, don't forget.
Yeah, that's it. Immortal yeah, absolutely. So I'm not quite sure. Because it only needs a rush of blood to the head, doesn't it? He only has to do that with his finger, and that's me blown away. But thankfully, he put the gun down, and I think we were quite successful really that day in stopping them from doing the shooting. So it worked out. I survived, and so did lots of the grouse. I think they were shooting. So did lots of them as well that day.
I had a young woman just a few days ago, actually. Well, no, about a week ago. We were talking about Hunt Saboteurs, and she said, aren't you worried about getting shot? And I was just like, this is England. You don't get shot. You're more likely to get shot in London somewhere.
I think you probably are, and I don't think the hunters carry guns. I mean, obviously the shooters have shotguns.
Well, I think that was where she was getting confused, and then she even asked, "Don't you carry guns?" She's like,
Yeah, it's obviously someone from the USA. I mean, when you say hunters to somebody from the USA, they think of people with guns, and I think so do people in Europe, because fox hunting, on horseback, I think it does happen in other countries. I think it does happen to some small extent in the USA, but it's not really that well known.
it's a very English thing, isn't it?
They think of hunting as someone with a gun, you see, so that's probably where that came from. But thankfully, they don't carry guns, because it's bad enough without them having guns. I mean, they're violent and vicious enough already without guns, aren't they, to hunt people?
They are, absolutely. I mean, they seem to have calmed down for the most part since the rules changed. Since now they're the ones that are illegal, and we're the ones that are legal. They seem to have calmed down a bit.
Yeah. Although you'd like to think it was that way, but it's still not. They're still operating with impunity, aren't they? Well, because this government doesn't want the law enforced, basically, and even though the law's weak,
Yeah,
they still don't enforce. So that's that's a problem. They're still trying to go on as they can.
I think the main issue is the fact that when they do get violent, they might get prosecuted. But then either they don't get any charges, or they get something pointless like a slap on the wrist, or they just get it overturned later.
Yeah, that's how it's always been. That's way back in the day, where there was violence by the hunt. Way back in the 70s, there was quite a few instances of violence by hunts, and really they just didn't get prosecuted. But if the Sabs did anything, you're straight court,
Instantly.
straight court. and it's still the same today. But it all really, it comes down to the nature of our government, I think, and all the kind of instructions that come down to them, to the police, and so forth. That's where it all comes from.
We did have a good result recently, though. We put a demonstration together, got 50,000 names on a petition, and the rural crime team, the overseers of that, it all started because they'd employed a woman who had connections to the hunt.
Yes, yeah.
And at the end result we got from that is the fact that they will no longer employ anybody that has any connection with the hunt or anti-hunting, which is only fair.
Although they're probably not going to employ anyone who's anti-hunting anyway. Yes, I think small victories like that can be won with sufficient pressure. But unfortunately, I think any really big, with a government like we've got now, I think any really big victories are kind of, beyond us really. And I think, we have to have a radical change of administration before we can achieve any big victories for the animals.
Do you think we've got any chance with our future Labour government? Do you think that will make much difference?
I think the best thing to be said about Labour is that they're not the Tories, but then they kind of are the Tories, but in a different guise. They're still to me, they're still a very right wing party. I would vote Labour if that was the best chance of keeping the Tories out, but that's the only reason. It's with no illusions. I mean, we need a government far more radical than Labour, and we need a government far more in favour of animal liberation than Labour could ever be, really. And I think fundamentally the way to achieve that really is through vegan education, because we want more vegan politicians, and we want more vegan politicians in parliaments, who believe in animal rights, believe in animal liberation, and who are anti-speciesist in their outlook. We need people like that in parliament. The only way we do that is by creating more vegans, because if you create more vegans, then you'll get more vegan politicians and you'll get more vegans to vote for them. So that's why changing the culture like that through vegan education is like fundamentally important to animal liberation.
Yeah, I totally agree. Even if it feels like it's only changing one person's mind at a time.
Well, it's one person. It's one person that goes down the ballot box and puts the cross in. That's the thing. You can't. You have to change ordinary people. You see, this thing. The whole thing about system change and individual change. The point is, if you fundamentally want system change, you have to have individual change, because it's the individuals who create the system. And the reason why we've got the horrific government we've got now is because almost 30% of people eligible to vote actually voted for them. They didn't come from the sky. They kind of weren't imposed on us. They voted in. You see, so you've got to change the voters. If ever we want anyone half decent voted in, you've got to change the mindset of really quite a large number of people. I'd say a significant minority. I think probably the tipping point is probably something like 25%. Like I said, it was less than 30% that voted for this government. But if we can get 25% of people on board, then we've got a very good chance. And that sounds like a big ask, but it's not as big an ask as 100%.
No,
you see. So we need as many vegans as possible involved in education. We need lots more vegans involved in organising and encouraging education, and we need vegan education everywhere. Kind of at the moment, what happens is, vegan outreach events tend to happen in the really in the centre of big cities. You have things like the Cube of Truth and We the Free, isn't it now, and Earthlings Experience. I think that may still be going some places, and that's great. I'm really pleased people do that. It's excellent. But the thing is, what about all the other places? What about the suburbs of those big cities? What about smaller cities? What about towns? What about even villages where no outreach takes place, and yet vegans live in those places? And so, what I'd like to see is vegans instigating, carrying out outreach in their own areas, instigating outreach in terms of getting other local vegans involved, so that we kind of spread the vegan message right at grassroots level in as many places as possible. So educate as many people as possible to go vegan and to oppose speciesism, and that way, by creating that fundamental culture change, we will eventually have political change, and that's the only way we'll do it. That's the only way we're going to actually change the system. Really, that's the only way we'll get fundamental change. And it doesn't sound, it's not exciting. I think other things contribute. I think there's other forms of awareness raising that can contribute to that. I mean, the sort of stuff that Animal Rebellion do, where you're kind of getting lots of media attention, and I think providing your messaging's right, that's a brilliant form of awareness raising. That's a brilliant form of education, because loads of people see that. So it's not just about the kind of not always just about the simple things like people delivering leaflets or doing information stalls. These other bigger things play an important part as well, but not everyone can do those things, you see. So but really almost every vegan can take part in some way, even if it's simple, even if it's delivering leaflets or helping at an information stall, for instance. So there's a role for everyone, and it's very sad that the vast majority of vegans aren't actively involved in outreach, and I think that's a tragedy, because if they were, then we'd be flying. We'd be getting there.
Yeah, it'll be happening a lot quicker and a lot sooner.
Yeah.
So, just as a point of interest, do you feel that there's more time or better time invested talking to young people? I mean, even children, particularly, than people in their in their middle ages or in their later ages?
I think we need to talk to everyone. To be honest, I've known people. I've known people, that are middle aged, and I've known people that are, pensioners that have gone vegan. So I think we need to talk to everyone we can. I think it's really important to talk to young people. I think, stuff like school talks and other things that get young people, actions at universities, for instance, all those things. I think all that's vitally important. That's vitally important, and I think it's really a question of vegans getting active within the community where they operate. Like older vegans are going to probably be more involved with older people,
Yeah.
aren't they? And younger vegans will be involved in younger people. So it's kind of who you're in touch with, and the people community within which you operate. That's kind of where you can spread the information. And vegans at university can do a lot to educate the other students, and people involved in schools, vegan teachers or parents of vegan children, people like that are kind of, that they're involved in that aspect of society. They can do a lot to promote veganism. I mean, our local vegan group, they used to, it hasn't started again, I think since all the lockdown and that, but our local schools used to hold these kind of eco events, after school eco events, where kids would grow their own vegetables and bring them along to school and grow plants, and they'd have stalls there, stalls at these events promoting environmental awareness, and our local vegan group would have stalls there. And so the reason we were invited was because of the the fact that vegan diet is better for the planet. That's why we'd be invited. But once we got in there, we were able to also talk about kind of ethical, what you might call ethical veganism, which is like real veganism, which is about animal liberation and animal rights, and not just the impact of animal farming on the planet, but the impact of animal farming on the animals that are actually farmed.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel that the climate conversation has opened things up? I mean, I'm continually at odds. There's a lot of talk of a plant-based future, and I'm continually telling people I don't want a plant-based future. I want a vegan future.
Yes, yeah. I think it's kind of provides a gateway in which you can kind of spread the the real vegan message as distinct from the plant-based message. I think that provides a gateway. It's like I said, we have our local vegan group is part of a Green Alliance in our area, and that enables us to take part at in lots of events, lots of kind of environmental events, and have stalls there. And of course, the reason we get the stalls, like I just say this, because of the environmental benefits of a plant-based diet, shall we say. But once you're in there, you can talk about you can talk about the ethical aspects of veganism, talk about animal liberation, about speciesism and human supremacism, because in my view, it's human supremacism that's caused all this. We have the climate crisis because of human supremacism. If we'd had a vegan human society, or at least a vegan controlled human society, back at the time of the Industrial Revolution, we wouldn't be in the shit we're in now. We'd have never done the things that led. I mean, the two main drivers of of global heating are animal farming and plus the fishing industry, and it could well be that's the main. That it could well be that animal agriculture is the main cause of global heating. For instance, climate healers. they produced a paper which shows how animal agriculture is actually 87% responsible for global heating. So, and so it's a major cause, and I think that's very often downplayed and ignored because people want to carry on kind of chomping on corpses, don't they? And so it's all the fossil fuels, and it's there's all this emphasis on fossil fuels, right? Because they don't want to change their own lives.
No, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to do your recycling and maybe buy an electric car.
Yeah, and be all pleased with yourself because you don't use plastic straws. When in fact, 50%, almost 50% of the plastic in the ocean comes from the fishing industry. So in actual fact, the best way to reduce plastic pollution of the ocean is to stop eating fish.
Yes, that's it. You'll change your straws to save fish, but you won't stop eating fish to save fish.
You'll be sucking your drink out of a recyclable, reusable straw while chomping down on a fish dinner. But then that's very often the case with these things, with the kind of people failing to put things together. But yes, and I think it provides a gateway. It certainly provided a gateway for our group where we can go along to events, and it's the same with the health. The thing about the thing about the vegan diet is that there are like kind of several aspects to it that provide a gateway to be able to promote ethical veganism, and I think. One gateway is the environmental benefits of the vegan diet. And another one is health benefits. We've had stalls at health events where we've said, look, we want to promote a healthy, plant-based diet. Can we come along and have a stall? Oh, yes, of course you can. But once we're in there, we can promote ethical veganism as well. Of course, you do have stuff about, that it's healthy or can be healthy. It can be the healthiest diet in the world if done right, can't it? The vegan diet.
I think they're good points to raise because, inevitably people tend to be selfish.
Yeah, they do. If we are going to have animal liberation, we've got to stop a hell of a lot of people being selfish. So. But it's a way to start a conversation. And it's a way to get into a place where you can have a conversation. It's better to be able to have a stall at these events than not have one. It's a way where what you're doing is kind of relevant to the event. The other place we kind of have stores locally is at dog. We've got a few dog rescues locally, and they do these kind of fun dog shows that like raise funds, and we'll have a stall at them. You have to pay a bit of money, but it does go to the rescue. And they kind of see us as relevant to the event. It's about protecting animals, and that's like another aspect of
Yeah, and people like dogs, don't they?
But you see, if people care about dogs, then you've got something to work with. If you care about dogs, then you've just got to extend your circle of compassion to other animals. And if somebody doesn't give a shit about any animal at all, then really there ain't much hope for people like that.
Time to move on to the next person.
Start to make a note of them to be rounded up after the revolution. But yes, it is time to move on, not to waste time on them, because we're going for a significant minority. We don't have to worry about the majority; it's a significant minority, and so you can aim to do things at events and in places where the audience are likely to be more receptive. You see, so you can kind of you can sort of select where you go. Although we do have things at just general community events like kind of fun days and carnival events and stuff. We'll have stalls there. Any because it's an addition to having street stalls, and sometimes it's better than street stalls. It depends, where people live and everything. But it can be a better way of doing stuff than street stalls, especially when some of these events are indoors, so you don't have to worry about weather.
Yeah, and you've got a relatively captive audience as well, haven't you?
You kind of have, yes, and so that's something, and I think a lot of vegan groups don't think of that. They're very focused on street events, and that's okay. Street events can be great, but like you can, you can educate people in other areas apart from the streets at various community events. The other thing we do a lot of is door dropping and delivering leaflets through people's letterboxes. You can kind of reach loads and loads of people that way. and I've known I've known a few people that have gone vegan because of that. And I mean, one problem you've got with vegan outreach is you very often don't hear what effect you don't know what effect you've had on people. But I do know people that have become vegan and become very good vegan activists because they received a leaflet. So it does work. I mean, all these things. It's I know people that have become vegan because they saw a video or because they've seen a poster. It's just any kind of information that people receive, and all of it's useful, and we need as much of it as possible everywhere.
So on that note, you're back working with Roger again.
Yeah, so I've known Roger for many years. Of course, Roger and I shared a cell in Hull prison when we were on remand for conspiracy to cause criminal damage.
I should just point out that that's Roger Yates, just as opposed to just any old Roger.
No, it's not any old Roger. I mustn't say that about him. Very, very pleased. He won't have me on his show anymore. So yes, and yes, we do. We do a regular weekly show called Still Alive, seeing as we've both been vegans for like a total of something like almost 100 years, and we're still alive, which is amazing.
Not died of protein deficiency or anything yet.
Never died protein deficiency. I mean, when I first went vegan, my mum immediately told me I'd be dead within a year. So either she was wrong, or I've been a vegetable eating zombie for 50 years. No. So yeah, yes. So yes, Roger. Yes, and we share the view about the vital importance of cultural change. The vital importance of cultural change if we're really going to achieve animal liberation. That we have to change a large number, the mindset of quite a large number of ordinary people. Otherwise, we're not going to do it. And it's just trying to get that idea more widely accepted, and trying to get more people to kind of take that on board and act accordingly in terms of getting involved in outreach and getting involved in encouraging, instigating outreach, especially in their local area. Because I mean, I live in an area where there's 100,000 people, and I could safely say that at least 90,000 of those people aren't vegan. So why would I need to go anywhere else? Why would I need to go anywhere else? I've got 90,000 non-vegans living all around me. I just, I mean, I do go other places sometimes, of course, but I kind of, why would I travel miles and miles to do vegan outreach when there's all these non-vegans that live all around here?
I feel a bit the same when people talk about travelling the planet. I'm just like, I've travelled this country for 30, 40 years. I still haven't seen it.
No. And travelling, to me, it's like same species as shit, just another place, isn't it? And I've never had a desire to travel. It's really funny that when I was younger, all my mates were going off to like Thailand and Borneo and like the other side of the world and all that. It never appealed to me. And I think that's because I thought, well, it's wherever you go, it's still going to be shit. It's still going to be human supremacism. Animals are still going to be oppressed. So, like, how would I get any particular pleasure from like going there when, if I want to see beautiful things, I want to see nature, I can go down the road and see it.
Yes.
I can go to a few miles away and see it.
I think it's nature that's relevant to you as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course, at one time, I mean, I did the times when I have gone abroad has been to meet other animal rights people. When I was involved in the ALF, I went abroad and kind of tried to stimulate. I remember going over to Sweden, and a group of us went to Gothenburg and glued up the fur shops there. I blew up the Lux fur shops. And I didn't realise we were there hours. I didn't realise how many fur shops. I thought there's probably going to be about half a dozen fur shops in Gothenburg. But it was like there was dozens and dozens of the bloody. We were there. I thought we're never going to get finished. There's so many of these bloody. Lucky we had lots of glue and stuff. Yeah, because it was like really, really big there. I mean, I don't know what it's like now, but so I used to go over to talk to other people in other countries, but you really don't need to now because we've got this, haven't we? Like we've got the internet, and you can talk to people all over the world. So we don't really need even to go. Like, I mean, I've taken part in conferences hosted in the USA. There's one every year I take part in, hosted in Estonia. You know, and various other countries, and you speak to people, you can have a Zoom call or whatever, and you can have people all over the world, and we can do that now. So why would we travel? Why would we have the stress of that? The cost of it, the harm caused to the environment, especially if you fly. Why do that? We've got this,
Well, we've got the same thing here, haven't we, with the building of HS2, all to shave a few minutes off. It's just like nobody needs a train anymore, Or
Or if it's for business people having business meetings, we'll do it on the internet. They just want to go to London for expenses, don't they? But no, you can do it. One thing that we've learned from lockdown is how you can do things on Zoom or
you can do an amazing amount of stuff from your own bedroom. It's just, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just do that. You don't need to destroy huge areas of wildlife habitat and kill, which results in killing the animals that live there or that survive on that habitat. Yes, just to get to London a few minutes quicker. What they need to do is invest in improving the existing rail system. That's like really shit, isn't it? And the buses. I think all public transport should be free. We have to encourage people out of their cars for several reasons. First of all, because the environmental, because of the emissions caused by cars. I mean, hopefully that will become less as they move to electric. We have more electric cars, but nevertheless, you've still got the physical impact of cars. You've got a huge amount of animals killed on the roads. More foxes killed on the roads than there are by hunting. You know, and so we have to encourage people out their cars into public transport, reduce emissions, reduce vehicles on the road. So it should be free. You know.
Well, I think it's about public wealth and private necessity.
Yes, I mean, it's kind of very much like, George Monbiot has done a lot on this, where he says that you have public luxury rather than private luxury. You have these public facilities that everyone can share, but what's happening? They're closing them. They're closing loads of swimming baths. They close loads of libraries. Anything that's public, anything that doesn't make some rich bugger a load of money, they close. But we need to be reversing that. We need to be opening up these places so people go, so it's free for people to enjoy. And so, and that means there's less impact on the natural world, less impact on animals living in the wild, because you've got all these facilities that people can share instead of a number of those, more of those facilities that are only in the hands of rich people.
Well, it's right from the beginning, right from the moment of resources, isn't it?
Yeah, it's it's the digging, the impact on the earth, where it's like forest being cleared or natural habitat being mined or whatever. It's that, it's the energy that the emissions that kind of are created by that process of extraction. Then it's the emissions created by the transport. It's the physical impact of the transport, like on animals and stuff. We forget, these roads that we go along. Well, they're driven through forests. A lot of them where animals, and it's like there's this kind of, well, to me, a kind of famous picture of a deer going across the road in front of the car, and it said, is the deer crossing the road, or is it that the road's crossing the forest? Well, it's the road that's crossing the forest. That those deer were there first. We've driven roads through their habitat. It's the humans that have encroached on that. It's not the deer. It's like people moan about, a badger came into my garden and dug up something, or they're always moaning about stuff like that. Right? Well, yeah, but those badgers were there long before your bloody garden was there and your neatly mown bloody wildlife unfriendly lawn. Who's there first?
Yeah, absolutely. I always get saddened when you see, I don't know, Fox Close or Orchard Terrace or whatever, and it's just like all these are what used to be there before they put houses on it.
Yeah, I lived in an orchard close, and that used to be an orchard. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Because we've not taken any account of other animals, and that we're just one animal in a world where there are, well, millions, billions of other species, a very large number of them actually sentient species, and there's no reason whatsoever, either moral or logical or rational, to believe that humans are any more important than any of them. And yet we kind of lord it over. We're the Nazis of the earth, really. I mean, not everyone as individuals. They're like, there's some decent people that don't believe in that, of course, and I wouldn't include them, but the vast majority, they're just like supremacists, aren't they? Like, they're Nazis strutting around and goose stepping on all the other animals, and we have to change that. I mean, it's imperialism. What we have is human imperialism. The world isn't inhabited by humans; it's occupied. The world is under occupation because if it was inhabited, we would be living in harmony with other animals. But because we oppress them and dominate them, it's actually an occupation. The world is under occupation by this kind of Reich, the human Reich, and we have to drive back. We have to drive that back. We have to withdraw from spaces that belong to other animals. We have to, in all ways that we can. Through we have to reduce our impact on the planet in lots of different ways. Whether it's through transport, whether it's through any projection, whether it's through our numbers, all these ways in which humans impact negatively on other animals. We have to try to absolutely minimise all of those. And obviously farming is probably the biggest. I mean, George Monbiot has produced a video just recently where he asked the question, what is the greatest threat to life on Earth? All right? And the greatest threat to life on Earth is farming. The greatest threat to life on Earth is farming, and especially animal farming, because the vast amount of land it takes up that could be rewilded and could draw carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and combat the climate crisis. That's probably number one reason. Secondly, because the pollution that's caused by it, through through manure from animals, through fertilizer sprayed on the land, and all these other things, and the land that's cleared, to provide. To provide areas for animal farming, or to where crops can be grown mainly for animal farming, for instance, and all the animals that perish through that being cleared. All these various reasons why animal farming is the worst thing on the planet, and that's so in some ways, well, in many ways, I think it's the number one problem we have to address.
Don't turn your head away, listen to your heart. Grasp the nettle, make the changes. Everything falls into place the moment you start to make the connection. Now the world is black and white, no more shades of grey. Always on my mind, every moment, every hour of the day, in a way, never goes away. When you make the connection, oh, honestly, I don't know how to live with everything I see, all the tears that I cry. Don't bring on the changes for the innocents who die. You can turn your head away and close the door, but you can never unsee the hell that you saw. Life's taken needlessly, doesn't make sense. When you make the connection, oh, honestly, I don't know how to live with everything I see. All those tears I've cried won't bring on the changes for the innocents who die. Let your Don't turn your head away, open your eyes. Whatever else you do, the change it always starts inside. Everything falls into place the moment you decide to make the connection. Oh, honestly, I don't know how to live with everything I see. All those tears that I cried won't bring on the changes for the innocents who died. Everything falls into place the moment you start to make the connection. All you need to do is open up your heart and make the connection.
Now, unlike some other islands out there, we want you to have some things that are actually worth having for survival. So we give you a complete botanical encyclopedia, which will enable you to forage for all the plants available to eat across the globe. And of course, a boat in order for you to venture away from the island and continue your journey into the ocean of opportunity for self-development and vegan outreach. You also get to take one book, one website address that you can recommend to fellow travellers, and your own personal must-have vegan item in order to keep your spirits up and strengthen your resolve. So firstly, what book would you like to take with you on your journey and why?
Well, I think over the years there's been various books that I'd have liked to have taken, but at the moment it would be a book called Regenesis by George Monbiot, and that is a book about basically about how we produce food and how we could massively change and improve our methods of food production in order to save the planet, and which would also spare trillions of other animals from slaughter and suffering if we adopted the methods that George proposes in that book. So I think it's a very, very important book for our times, and it's one that I'd urge everyone to read. You know, especially the people that are decision makers, and hopefully they, whether any of the current decision makers will take any notice of it, I don't know, but I think it is a really, really vital and important book, and I'd like to see probably virtually all the measures that George advocates in that book adopted, so that the impact on the planet that is created by production of our food is massively diminished, and we can rewild a huge area of the planet, could go back to nature as habitat for for free living beings, for wildlife, and also which would effectively really combat the climate crisis.
So, so you also get to choose a website that you can share with people.
I kind of got I suppose the one I kind of would choose is the Animal Aid website, and that's here in the UK. Obviously, if I was in a different country, I'd probably choose a different one. I kind of like Animal Aid because, I mean, first of all, they promote veganism. They also promote a lot of other issues involving protecting other animals and involving abolishing various forms of the oppression of other animals, like, for instance, horse racing and dog racing as well, and stuff like hunting, the fur trade, all these things, and so kind of and animal experimentation. So kind of what that means is say, like, I mean, for instance, I was on at one of our, it's like double oppression really, because at our nearest race course there was one of these fun runs for Cancer Research UK, you see, and so a few of us thought, this is a good tip, if you're giving out leaflets in the street or outside an event and you want people to take them, wear a high-vis jacket, like them, because people think you're official and they're more likely to take the leaflet. It's psychological. So put on high-vis jackets. We stood outside and we were giving them leaflets from Animal Aid about, people boycotting charities that fund animal experiments. But the thing about that is, you see, that giving people that leaflets could also lead them to veganism, because if people through that leaflet go on the Animal Aid website, then almost straight
Everything else is there.
information, everything else there, including veganism. So that's kind of why why I like Animal Aid, because through what you might call single issues, people can be led to veganism. It's all interconnected, you see. So you can use their leaflets on single issue stuff, knowing that could have the effect of causing people to go vegan.
So finally, as you're going to be cast off from this island in a bit and sent off on your journeys, what would be your must-have vegan item to take with you?
Well, my must-have vegan item would be my cap. See this cap here? Especially for summer. When it's winter, I've got like a kind of beanie hat. But the interesting thing about this cap is I have a vegan badge, see? And on all my hats, I wear a vegan badge, you see, because that spreads the message. People just seeing the word vegan can help in the process of veganising people. But one interesting story about this cap, I was wearing it some years ago. Louise and I, we spent a weekend in Bath, and we were feeling peckish one day when we were in the city centre, and I went in the Pret-a-Manger there to buy some vegan wraps, and I got a couple of vegan wraps. I took them to the counter, and there was a guy behind the counter. He rang up the cost of them, which was like, I think it was 14 quid or something each. So not the cheapest wraps, but we were hungry. And he looked at my badge on my hat, and he said, "Oh, are you vegan?" And I said, "Yes." And he went like that, zeroed it. He said, "Right, free of charge." And I got, so it's a bit like, because he was obviously vegan, it was a bit like the vegan Freemasons, like.
Yeah, right. Golden handshake.
So I wear this. I wear this in hope that I will, get more. I haven't received any more free items through that badge, but I'm hoping.
You never know. It's always worth a try.
Might get something free that's perhaps greater in value than 14 quid. Yeah.
So now all that remains for us to do is for me to thank you again for coming and visiting me on the island, and for you to climb aboard your wonderfully crafted vessel and sail off into the sunset to continue your journey towards a fully vegan planet. Thanks once again to Ronnie Lee from Wire Forest Vegans. All the links to find him are in the description. And as Ronnie sails away on their brand new adventure, I'd just like to say a special thank you to Vanquish Evil, Barbara Helen, and Vox Vegana for providing today's music. Links for all of them are available in the description. That's all for now on Vegan Island Radio. Please like, share, subscribe, leave us a comment if you wish. And if you'd like to help maintain the island, then why not check out our Patreon link and see what you can do to help. Thanks once again for tuning in, and come and join us next Sunday and find out who else will wash up upon our shores.
To a slaughterhouse. If there's nothing wrong with it, let them stand above the carcasses, no rotting in the pits. If everything was peachy and they exterminate with pride, then it wouldn't be illegal just to have a look inside. Showing you the violence, willfully as ignorant as any we try to convince. Fuel up your firewall, fight to keep your blinders on. Tell yourself there's more important things for you to focus on. If you buy the status quo, if you only think you know, I hope you face the truth they try not to show. Not good enough for your eyes, not good enough for your plate, and your casual disregard is more destructive than hate. The Arque Experience. Hello, Ronnie.
Hello, Arque.
Are you ready for your questions?
I am indeed.
Schrodinger's cattle. Will they go extinct or take over the world if people stop eating them?
Yes, that's an interesting. The answer is neither. The answer is neither, and the reason is because really all animals that we now have that humans keep for food and breed for food have come from wild ancestors, and in almost all cases, those ancestors are still living in the wild. So, in actual fact, they wouldn't go extinct because their ancestors would still be around. And in fact, not breeding those cattle anymore would help to actually preserve their ancestors and allow their ancestors to thrive. And the reason for that is because so much harm to the planet is done by animal farming that we remove that harm, and that will enable all animals living in the wild to thrive, including the ancestors of those animals we farm at the moment.
Do you dream in colour?
I think so. Yeah, yeah, I suppose it depends what era I'm, because there was a time when everything was black and white, wasn't there? I remember when I was a kid, everything was black and white. But no, I think I dream in colour. I've kind of it's never occurred to me that I dream in black and white.
Should we bring back lost species through genetic engineering?
No, I don't think so. I think what we should do is concentrating on ending the oppression of species that exist at the moment. I mean, animals. Animals begin to have rights. When they're actually created, and consideration for those animals arises from when those animals are first created. I'd say when they're first conceived. Say, so what are we doing? What good does it do to other animals to bring back those lost species? All that is like a curiosity thing for humans. That's not done for the benefit of those animals. That is done for the benefit of humans, so we can kind of have some kind of get a G from the same way that people go to zoos and safari parks, isn't it? It's not for the benefit of the animals there, it's for to give them give them some kind of interest, give them another thing to kind of perhaps waste their time on. And I think that's the same with bring back lost species, and it's not something that I'm enthusiastic for at all.
One slice of toast or two?
Oh well, 3 usually. What I do when I have toast, you see, I usually in the morning I have muesli, and what I do is I make it up the night before, put me soy milk or oat milk on it, pop it in the fridge, and then in the morning. Well, in the winter, I heat it up a little bit in the microwave, so it's not really cold. In the summer, I'll have it cold. That's my breakfast. Sometimes, if I kind of don't prepare that, I'm tired at night and think, I can't be bothered. I'll have toast. But what I do is I'll have a cup of tea. I'll have 3 bits of toast. I have Marmite or yeast extract on one of them. I have peanut butter on the second one, and I have tahini on the third one. So I have 3 slices. I'm greedy. I have 3.
What are your thoughts on snails?
I think snails should be protected. I'll always move snails off the path. I think there is evidence that snails, that mollusks are sentient, so that they do have a degree of feeling. So I wouldn't want them to be harmed in any way, and I kind of do my best to move them from harm. One worrying thing I've noticed, though, certainly where we live, is the reduction in the number of snails. I mean, often I'd come home at night, and it would take me about half an hour to walk down the path to the house because of the number of snails and slugs there were. And now it's not like that at all. The numbers have very much diminished, and I don't know whether other people have experienced this, but it's very worrying what's caused that. Because that has a knock-on effect on other animals, like sort of birds and hedgehogs and all the creatures that kind of live on the snails and slugs. So yeah, no, I have a lot of respect for snails, and I do try to, my utmost to avoid harming them.
Don't use the V word. What does the V word mean to you?
Well, the V word veganism. Well, veganism to me means it kind of means animal. It means animal liberation in the broadest sense of animals, because I think it means. I think it means opposition to all forms of oppression and to all forms of exploitation. And I think that also, if we kind of look at the history of veganism and kind of what the founders of the vegan movement intended, it means opposition to the oppression of humans, not just to other animals, and that's what it was kind of meant to be. But I think it's mainly the focus is on other animals, because if you look at oppression throughout the world, the vast majority of oppression in terms of numbers it is caused by humans against other animals, which I think quite rightly means that the focus of veganism should be on other animals. So veganism means animal liberation. Is animal liberation? It means anti-supremacism, anti-speciesism, anti-oppression, anti-exploitation.
What is the weirdest excuse for not being vegan that you have ever heard?
Someone pointing at their teeth, perhaps, although that's quite common, isn't it? You get the teeth pointers. But we did have one bloke come up to the stall, and all he did was just shout B12. He shouted B12, and then just and then just walked off. I don't know whether he went round shouting the names of other vitamins, like going down the high street shouting niacin or something. I don't know what, but that was weird.
If roses are red and violets are blue, what colour are thoughts?
What colour are thoughts? I don't know, really. I think they're probably different colours depending on what thought it is, to be honest. But I don't know what colour could be put to. I suppose you're thinking about protecting the environment. That'd be a green thought, wouldn't it? If you're angry, would that be a red thought? I don't know. But maybe they are. Maybe they are colours. It's not something I thought about in any colour, to be honest.
Christmas or solstice?
I don't know. In a sense, I think neither, because I think it's all connected with religion, and it's so therefore it's all bollocks. But yeah, I think it's okay for people to cheer themselves up. But it's just that, unfortunately, what they're doing is, the main thing I'm concerned about is all the animals that are slaughtered for people to stuff down their throats at Christmas. That's the main thing I'm concerned about.
That concludes the Arque Experience. Thank you, Ronnie.
No, it's been a pleasure. They were good questions, actually, because they're different. I always get asked the same questions, and it's nice to have some different ones.
Brilliant. Thank you for answering the questions, Ronnie.
No, it's been a pleasure. They were good questions, actually, because they're different. I always get asked the same questions, and it's nice to have some like different ones.